Hey, with 3 weeks left, the notion that John McCain will win this election has dwindled to wishing well proportions. Republican candidates are now fighting each other in private for that money that the RNC has while distancing themselves from each other in public. So while anything is still possible, let's talk about what Washington will probably look like in 2009. Number one, the Republican Party will be small and weak for the first time in a while. I think the 200-odd people left will get more conservative. That seems counterintuitive, but you know what? They've already decided that the reason they're losing is by not being conservative enough. They've already made this diagnosis that we're not conservative enough, which is a comforting delusion that I expect them to latch onto and act primarily as obstructionists rather than working for the small compromises that a small minority would be able to achieve in Congress. But it's not going to be easy or fun for Republicans doing all this, and if they're wise, they will spend the next decade figuring out how to really attract people of color, because just betting on the white people is not working out for them, and it's going to work out less and less as time goes by. John McCain will be back in the Senate in a humiliated position. To the Republicans, he will represent the straying from conservatism that they think cost them their power, and the Democrats and the rest of the world will remember him as the guy who tried to beat the first black president by stirring up fear and prejudice. So him in the middle, he's going to take it from both sides. It's going to be very hard for him, and I bet you he will retire in 2010. Of course, he's a very stubborn man, so you know that could be wrong, but it's going to be a lot to take. Meanwhile, the Democrats will develop clear differences between each other. A large governing majority does this. They split, and there will be more people like Joe Lieberman who collaborate with Republicans to undermine their own party. Now, why didn't the Republicans do this when they were in charge for a few years? You know, in the early 2000s, well, the Republicans had this discipline when they were in power because they had strong leaders like Tom DeLay and Karl Rove. These were exceptionally talented men. I don't think they were good people, but they were good at what they did, which was pushing people around. Nancy Pelosi is not as powerful as that. Obama also has had opportunities to push his party around, and he's not really done it in the past year. So we either need new leadership in Congress, or you will see more infighting, and conservative Democrats bucking the party line. Actually, that's why I'd like Hillary Clinton to become the Senate Majority Leader. She's a good arm twister. Also, Rahm Emanuel, you might not know this guy, but he's in the House of Representatives, and if he takes over the House, we would also see more discipline there too, because he's an iron-fisted fella. But you know what? There's no reason to explicitly expect that to happen at this point, so you'll probably see some splits in the Democratic Party next year that could make it a little harder for all the promises to be kept. Now, the effect of a full pendulum swing from right to left will take a while anyway before it's noticeable. The Democrats' agenda will be years before it's implemented, but there will be one instantaneous effect. We will be living in a country that elected a black president. You know, we will have done that. It will be the greatest milestone in racial progress, I used to say since the end of apartheid, but maybe since the end of slavery. I mean, it's hard to quantify these things before they happen. It's not possible to say how significant this change will affect us, but I want you to acknowledge the possibility that it could be big, because the factor that most limits human potential is the mental limits we put on ourselves and what we believe we are capable of. But there are untold masses around the world and in this country who may, or may not, redefine their own limits when America has a black president. That could draw more good out of us than we think. Now, I haven't said anything about the specific policies that will change, the healthcare, the foreign policy, the constitutional interpretations that have changed so much under Bush, or any of the environment. There are so many issues that Democrats want to change, and you know what? Some of those promises will be kept, and some of them won't. Some plans will be too ambitious, some of the bills will be badly written, some will be too expensive, and other things are going to work out great. As to which ones and how many of them, a big part of that has to do with how we behave. We, you and me, we have responsibilities that extend after Election Day to force our politicians to keep their promises of a more peaceful and fair and free America. This election is a vehicle. that can take us to a better life. We still have to drive the vehicle. So if you guys keep watching, them and me, and aren't afraid to pick up the phone when your politician does something stupid, that vehicle will run. So here's looking forward to 2009.